You are listening to the Why I Love Disney podcast. In this episode, we talk about the latest Disney news, including the parks closing in Shanghai due to the outbreak of the coronavirus. Also, we discuss David's continuing Year of Disney challenge and his exploration of early Walt material, reaching all the way back to his Kansas City days. Are you ready? Let's go.
People trying to figure out what's fair. Some people think lottery is fair. Let everybody walk in and hit the app, first come, first serve. And then other people are like, well, yeah, but I'm willing to stand in line for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Somebody that came after me,
it's a good point,
shouldn't get in first. And
early bird gets the worm, as they say. I recently stayed in line for 12 hours for free chicken sandwiches at Chick-fil-A. So, I mean, I would be really bummed if they made it a lottery after I'd slept all night in a parking lot.
I know. I actually thought about that when I knew you were doing that for the opening of Chick-fil-A.
Is there a Chick-fil-A in Disney World? Welcome to another episode of the Why I Love Disney podcast. Yeah. I'm Dustin.
I'm David.
And we are excited to be with you again today to talk about all things Disney. It's what we love to do, just fans of Disney, chatting about all the latest things in the Disney world. So, David, how was your week, man?
It was great. It was really good. How was yours?
Fantastic. Any trips to Disney this week?
No, I wish. But
me neither. I've been home at the grind, getting some work done, but I'm excited to be here talking about. There's some new stuff that happened this week. I thought we'd start there with maybe the latest news that we've saw and some things we've experienced this week with Disney. So, would you? What have you seen this week that's got you excited or got you thinking about?
Well, it was just funny because I just saw a story about a live-action Bambi, and the funny thing was that we just had
Bambi.
That's all I saw. Live-action Bambi.
Live-action Bambi.
Yeah. Okay. The funny thing was that I was with a friend yesterday.
This sounds like a joke.
We were talking about all the movies that they've made remakes of, and all the ones that we knew that were coming. And we walked out and said, pretty much it's like they're going to remake everything except Bambi. And then I look online.
They got to change a couple things.
Do you think his mom will still die?
I don't know. Or, if it's in the right kind.
I can't imagine.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like the hunting culture. It'll be interesting how they handle this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Interesting. That's a classic, man. They're not. There's no sacred cows. They'll remake anything, won't they?
I guess so.
I wonder what's next.
I don't know. Oh, well, the next is Mulan.
Mulan is coming out. I'm excited about it.
And Cruella in 2021.
Well, that's funny.
And those two are next.
This may not be the time, but I saw Mulan for the first time last night.
Yeah. How did you miss that?
Okay, I guess when it came out, I was just a little. I think it was it 98 or 99?
98.
Okay, I was in college, freshman and sophomore year of college, and I guess I was just a little too old to have caught it. But I watched it with my kids last night, and even through the years, I don't know how we've missed it. But three of my boys were home. We had a movie night, and it was great. I mean, it's a great movie. There were several times I laughed out loud. I thought Eddie Murphy was fantastic. I never realize that he sort of reprised that role for Donkey and Shrek. It's sort of very similar.
Very similar.
But I thought it was the kind of the culture surrounding it was pretty cool. I thought the kind of the inside jokes for adults that some of these movies like Aladdin kind of have that you have to be quick to kind of catch.
Right.
I thought that was great. I thought the music was really clever and catchy. Yeah. I enjoyed it. My kids laughed. They were thrilled with it. They watched Mulan 2 this morning because they just couldn't stop. They were like, well, we have to watch Mulan 2. And it was a great experience. I loved it.
Your boys are ages from
11 to 4. My 11-year-old was spending the night at grandparents, so it was my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old and my 4-year-old who all loved it.
You have all boys, and yours are younger. I have 3. I have 2 daughters and a son, but mine are teenagers, older teenagers. So I remember when that Mulan sequel came out. That was my kids watched that Mulan sequel. I think maybe the sequels always get a bad rap, but my kids watched the sequel quite a bit. I mean, that was one of their favorite sequels.
Yeah, they said I asked them if they liked it, and they said they enjoyed it.
It was never one of my. The sequels are never, they're never my favorite.
They don't have the budget. Yeah. They don't have the voice actors. It's kind of.
But they watched that a lot. I remember. It's interesting because you have 4 boys, and again, having 2 daughters, what our kids watched was probably different, and it's always interesting to hear what they thought, and because 4 guys watching Mulan for the first time.
Well, they were really kind of, it was awkward during the scene where Mulan is taking a bath in the river or and then all these dudes, all these other soldiers sort of come and join her, and I'm like, all of a sudden I'm nervous. You know, I know it's Disney, it's a cartoon, but I really don't know a lot about the movie, and it's awkwardly funny. It's hilarious. But my kids, I'm watching them, and they're like kind of squeamish, and they're looking around like they're not sure if they're allowed to laugh or not. And but it was great. It was really kind of it was a well done moment that kind of, I think part of the awkwardness of it all really gets across kind of the comedy aspect, and also kind of the things that a girl in that situation would struggle with. Right. But I thought it was great start to finish. The characters were great. It was funny. All the things you want in a Disney movie. I mean, it's great.
You got a new remake coming,
and I'm excited because I think there'll be things different. I was sitting there thinking,
I think it will be
probably overthinking while I was there. Like there were certain jokes and phrasings in some of the songs where I'm thinking, I wonder if this would be made like this in 2020. Right. You know, there's times change, cultures change, our politics today are different. Again, I didn't think anything was inappropriate at all, you know, in my view. But I always have that kind of radar now of, would this work today? You know, would somebody be mad about that they just said? There's a lot of like kind of some sexism innuendo of just kind of the culture of like an all male army. They didn't want the girl there, and comments made and things like that. And I'm curious, like, when the remake comes out, how that's going to be portrayed. I'm excited for the remake. Really am.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
We talked about that in the last episode, but I took us off track with what I saw this week because Mulan, you know, you brought Mulan up.
We were talking about remakes
and Bambi.
Seeing Bambi. I also saw that I had not heard about this, that there's a Bo Peep short coming to Disney Plus January 31st about what happened to Bo Peep on the lamp and how she left the antique shop, I guess. And
have you watched a lot of the Disney shorts on Disney Plus?
I've watched a lot of the older ones. So
these are things you've seen before.
I've seen before,
right? I think that's a cool little feature of Disney Plus is to have them all there, you know, in one place to kind of cycle through.
They've got a lot of. I saw that there's a lot of Mickey Mouse shorts out there. Yep. They've picked some of the best and some of the most classic ones, and then I wish they would get some more of the classic Donald Duck and Goofy shorts on there. I haven't seen those on there, but there's a few where they're all in there together. But some of the ones that are
is there still some on Netflix, probably contractually, that you know won't come over? There was like a few. I don't know if there were shorts, but it was like the Mickey Mouse on Netflix was older Mickey Mouse cartoons, and my kids wore those out. You know, a few years ago, like the one where there's a Halloween one where the witch, Donald and the witch, kind of go back and forth.
That one I think is
on Disney Plus.
On Disney Plus. I just saw that one recently, but I don't remember.
It's fantastic. I love that. I love it.
It's called. I think it's called Trick or Treat.
Yeah, Trick or Treat. Yeah. I think that is the title of it.
Yeah, and Huey, Dewey, and Louie are trying to get candy. She helps them get candy from Donald. That is a good one. And
there's Mickey and the Beanstalk, which is not really a short, but that was on Netflix. I've seen that quite a few times. Okay. But is it on Disney Plus? Have you seen it?
I haven't noticed if it's there. I would assume it's there. The original movie is called Fun and Fancy Free. Okay. From the 40s, and it was Mickey and the Beanstalk, and then another movie called Bongo. But I haven't noticed if that's there.
Well, that's all my kids have
because we've owned so many of these movies for so long. I've just really focused more on what's new and the things I haven't, all the new content. And but we actually did just go through the whole list as a family. We were looking, and I can't remember if Mickey was in the Beanstalk was there.
Okay, I got a question. So I was surfing through Disney Plus, and I saw that the movie Willow was on there. Is that a Disney movie?
You know,
or is it one of the studios, I guess?
I think it's because with the mergers.
Is that a Fox thing, you think?
I don't know.
I know is I loved Willow as a kid. I never realized that it was connected with Disney. I need to do some research on that before I ignorantly bring it up on the podcast. But I saw that, and I'm telling my kids, we got to watch this. We got to watch this. And they're like, nah. I'm trying to convince them I remember it being really good. Of course, I haven't seen it since I was probably 10 years old or 11 years old. So it may be terrible on a second watch, but that's Val Kilmer. And I think that was one of his first kind of breakout movies, and I'm excited about checking Willow out again pretty soon. So, but more news. Sorry, I get talking about Disney Plus and what we've seen. So, anything else?
I don't know that I any other news that I saw the past week was anything surprising. It just seems like a lot of refurbishments, a lot of construction walls in the parks. That seemed like other big news. And,
is this the time of year they typically do that?
Well, I know a lot of the things like Splash Mountain usually get refurbed in the winter, and Grizzly River Run, and even the water parks, I think, typically get their refurbishment. The
season where it
seems like
traffic.
More than ever. Maybe because even when we were at Epcot earlier in January, I mean, there's just so many construction things going on already. So if Test Track is under refurbishment, and I know that Spaceship Earth is going under a big refurbishment, it's like, man, there's going to be a lot down and a lot. It's like, man, it's hard to figure out how to plan a trip if you're trying to go off season.
Yeah.
When things close, it's like, how do you?
So crowds are down, but maybe some things will be closed.
Crowds are down, but your favorite ride might be closed. So we typically, unfortunately, only get to go when the crowds are. I mean, we're either there spring break, fall break, Christmas break, or in the summer, and so we're there when the crowds are there. So we usually don't deal with a lot of. When we were there, the train was closed because of Tron construction, but I think that was the only thing that was even down while we were there.
Move to Florida. We should move to Florida.
I'm working on it. No, but my son's thinking about going to school in Florida.
There you go. You go visit him.
Not very far from Orlando, so there may be a reason to get an annual pass after all this.
There you go. Make him a resident first, right?
I guess he will be if he's down there for 4 years.
Yeah.
So.
Finally, it looks like we talked a little bit about the queuing system for your ride, Rise of Resistance.
Yeah.
Then all the problems with that. But I saw that on the other flip side, Smuggler's Run, now they're offering Fast Pass 4.
My son texted me that this week that he saw that the Smuggler's Run at Disney World has Fast Passes. I don't know if it does at Disneyland, but it was. I saw several. I watched several vlogs this week. I was really surprised that that's still. There's still the whole what's the best way to get people on these rides was still very much being talked about, and I mean it was one of the greatest rides I've ever ridden, and especially not knowing what it was going to be like, and
Rise of Resistance.
But getting on it that was pretty stressful, and when you. I can't even imagine what they're dealing with when they got that many people coming to the parks. Everybody wants to ride that ride, and to think that you might be down there a week and not be able to get on that ride it's crazy.
Yeah, if I went, you think for someone like us who live a little bit away to make that effort and investment and go in and not be able to ride, that would be a big deal for me.
Well, I think I told you, and when we went down there, we'd been told, you're going to board with the app, and then basically first come first serve, whoever gets through the gate first. And we were like 10th in our line. I don't know how many lines there are getting into Hollywood Studios, but maybe 50. I don't really know. I actually tried to look it up, but I couldn't find out how many. Where you do your magic band. I couldn't find out how many there were, but maybe 50. We were like 10th in our line, so I'm thinking maybe there's 500 people in front of us. And we got there 2 hours before park opened. By the time park was getting close to opening, I mean, there were thousands behind us. I mean, it was a huge crowd. And so we think they're going to open at 7 and let everybody in. We're going to hit that app. Then they let everybody in instead at 6:30, and there were a lot of locals and people that were there for their second and third time trying to ride the ride that were completely caught off guard because no one had seen them do this. They thought, wait a minute. And so when everybody's going through the gate and hitting the app, well, it's not live till 7. So there was 30 minutes of this massive packed in crowd in the street of Hollywood Studios, and people are trying, no one knows what's going on, so people are trying to break in front of each other, and it was just so congested, and you're just wondering, like, am I going to get on? I mean, and we did meet people that we got there at 5 in the morning, and we met people that walked up at 6:30 who got on the ride hours earlier than we did. We were in boarding group 76. The woman right in front of us was boarding group 61, and we met people in the day that walked up at the gate near 7:00, and they got boarding group like 29. And so I was just wondering, man, I wonder how many people didn't get on at all.
Yeah.
And what
it probably is in their interest not to release all that information. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want anybody to know. It's probably could be random.
Yeah,
it could. I don't know how they do that.
I've seen several other articles, and people trying to figure out what's fair. Some people think lottery is fair. Let everybody walk in and hit the app, first come first serve. And then other people are like, well, yeah, but I'm willing to stand in line for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Somebody that came after me.
It's a good point.
Shouldn't get in first. And
early bird gets the worm, as they say. I recently stayed in line for 12 hours for free chicken sandwiches at Chick-fil-A. So, I mean, I would be really bummed if they made it a lottery after I'd slept all night in a parking lot.
I know. I actually thought about that when I knew you were doing that for the opening of Chick-fil-A.
Is there a Chick-fil-A in Disney World?
No, I don't know.
There needs to be.
I'm sure there's one nearby.
They would be closed on Sunday, though.
It's not in the park, though. But
maybe one in
Springs,
Disney Springs.
Yeah. No, there's not one there either. But there's probably one nearby.
I'm joking. I can live without Chick-fil-A for a little while.
But I did think about that. That's like I thought about that was like people that stood in line at Universal for the Hagrid motorcycle roller coaster for 10 hours and things.
10 hours.
They were. Wow. I saw people on that first few days of that.
It's amazing.
Stood in line all day long to be one of the first to ride it.
Fandom amazes me. What we'll do, for something we like. And again, you got to kind of have it's not so much. There are some people who will like look and say, I can't believe I would never. But you do it for something.
Yeah.
Everybody would do it for something. And again, part of it, like this Chick-fil-A thing, my son and I talked about doing it together.
Yeah.
And it was an experience. We slept in a tent. It wasn't comfortable at all. But it's what you make of it. It's kind of the event of it all. What you're getting. It's not so much that I needed free chicken sandwiches.
But it was a lot of fun to get.
It's fun.
It's a lot of
When you
a lot of chicken sandwiches.
It's a lot of chicken sandwiches.
It's a great deal.
Now I can maybe go to Disney World, sooner.
You can think of all the money you're saving on food this year, and you can save up.
Exactly. But I think that it is amazing. Like everybody has a fan of something, and will wait for something that's important to them.
Yeah.
So
that's why I've really enjoyed this podcast. As we started this, and I'm doing this little year of Disney kind of fast myself, and just one of the things I really wanted to think about in this journey for some reason is, why do I love this so much? Why has this been such a big part of my life? And because when we were first talking about even doing this, I think you called me a fanatic, and I was like, I'm not a fanatic.
It's that guy over there that's the fanatic.
I'm sure there are people way more fanatical than I am. I like the movies. I like to go to the parks. That doesn't feel that fanatical.
It's like
my house isn't decorated in Disney. I don't dress in Disney.
You think it's kind of like those people? Nobody thinks they're rich, really. You know what I mean? Like, it's always the next guy. I don't have money like that guy. I'm not rich. You know what I mean? When I think it's kind of like that. You're not a fanatic. I wouldn't say I've seen worse or better, depending on your perspective. But
I think that's what is so interesting about being a fan. When you were saying, I was such a huge fan of the movies as a kid. I read everything I could about Walt Disney animation and movies, and so I think I'm this huge. I kind of thought I'm probably unusual. Then I start meet people that did live in Florida and were park experts, and I'm thinking, I don't know any of this.
Yeah.
Where, this information you only know if you live in Orlando or you live in Anaheim. You would never know all this information. So it's interesting, but but there are a lot of different kind of fans.
Yep.
I mean, some people, dress Disney every day. Some people have their houses decorated in Disney. I mean, there's a lot of Disney merchandise. People are buying. I go to the parks and you see all this merchandise, and you go, people are buying this. It's a lot of variety out there. Different type fans. There's animation fans. There's parks fans. There's a mix of everything. It's one of the. But it's like it is interesting to think about why do you love this so much?
Mm-hmm.
why is this such a big part of my life? And
well, I hope people get that from this podcast too. Like, this is we like to talk about the news and issues and our top lists and all that sort of things, but we also are fascinated with fandom in general. And I think the discussion's really interesting to me. Yeah. Like, why we like what we like.
Why would I stand in line for 10 hours for something? Why would I? Which I really haven't ever done that, but I did. I was up at 3:30 in the morning, Ubering over, getting ready to go to Uber over to Hollywood Studios to stand in line, and we really wanted to be there a little bit earlier. I'm glad in the end that 5 o'clock was plenty of time to be there, but.
Well, in a future episode, I'd love to do a list when we do some list podcasts, like favorite restaurants, because there's a restaurant in Disney Springs that I go out of my way anytime I'm in the Orlando area or in Central Florida, even if I'm not going to Disney, that I'll try to find a way to get to.
Is it still there?
Oh yeah, I went actually this past summer.
Like things are changing constantly.
It's actually Bongo's. Okay. The Gloria Estefan owned restaurant. It's kind of Cuban Spanish.
I've never been there, but I know what you're talking about.
It's fantastic. It's Disney prices, and I could probably find a small little Spanish restaurant in a hole in the wall that's really good. There are many. I actually know a couple that are fantastic. But there's just the atmosphere they usually have. There's a band playing. There's dancers. I always get the seafood paella. And share it with somebody with the lobster and the scallop and the mussels, and then it's just fantastic. It's one of my favorites. Literally one of my favorite restaurants.
That's really one of the things I hope in the next few years is we're kind of getting a different phase where our kids are a little bit older. I really hope that when I get back to the parks, I can start doing new things. Like, we've really not spent a lot of times in Disney Spring. The parks just dominate, and and if you're at a resort, I mean, it takes the precedent. There's just lots of things like that I want to do, and I was telling my wife, it's like, at some point we're going to go just by ourselves. Well. And eat all the, because I watch all these vlogs and you see all these incredible people going to eat all these incredible meals, and it's like we've done some of that, but not nearly to the level some people do. Again, I think there's a lot of. I would love to do a survey at some point and go, what is your priority? Who prioritizes the attractions? I was telling you, like, just a few weeks ago, I was talking to a friend, and he said, well, it doesn't matter if the lines are long because everybody goes to Disney for the parade and the fireworks. Right. And I was like, oh, I like that, but I'm going there for attractions. But there are other people that are there to meet characters. And when we were amazed when my son and I were out at Disneyland this fall, I mean, the first thing when we walk in, there's this huge line. And we were like, what's the line for? And it was people already stopping for a photo op with this big Mickey jack-o'-lantern first thing in the morning. And it was literally, it had to have been a 45-minute line. Wow. That people were, first thing in the morning, they're already lined up for it. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole different thing that, our kids were never really interested in meeting characters that much. So we were just always hitting the rides and attractions and the shows, but people have so many different fans have different priorities. You ask somebody if they're a fan, they'll say yes, but you ask them a little bit more, you'll find out they probably have a whole different fandom in their mind than you do.
Right. Well, that's sort of an interesting thing too. Like, when I'm in Central Florida, for whatever reason, I love Disney Springs because it doesn't take the investment, either time or money. I don't have to invest a day. I may not have a day on the trip to go to a park. It's free. It's retail, but you still get the Disney sort of aura and the magic and the signage and the great restaurants and kind of the atmosphere of it. And that's what I love. So I was there for some work related things, and just made sure that one of the nights we ate dinner at Disney Springs, at Disney World. Matter of fact, I have a really good friend that travels with us. That's where Ramin sometimes, his closest experience to Disney World was Disney Springs. I brought my youngest son, hasn't been to the parks yet. Right. But he thinks he has because he's been to Disney Springs, You
guys did the virtual.
Oh, yeah, the Void VR? Yeah. Oh, that's there.
See, I really wanted to do that really bad this Christmas, but we just couldn't work it out.
We should talk about that. But here's the thing. Like, when you're down, I feel like it's one of those, like, if you've already invested so much to be in the parks, right, you spend your time there.
You pay for that ticket in that park. Yeah. And you're already dealing with the crowds. So everything you're doing, you're going, okay, I want to go do that, but we probably won't do Frontierland. I mean, something's going off. Something has to leave the the list. You can't.
At some point these days in the works we do, there's some conference that's going to be down there.
Yeah.
And you're going to be down there staying in a hotel or an Airbnb or something like that. And that's the perfect time to do the other stuff, I think.
Well, we did plan. This past trip, we did plan a day to go out to Disney Springs. There's some shopping. Like our group actually split. We had some that really wanted to shop. They went a little bit earlier. The rest of us were in the park. We came over, and the plan was to eat, but it was so crowded everywhere we went. It was probably the biggest crowd we faced. I mean, just difficult moving wise was at Disney Springs, which really did surprise me. I guess there were so many locals and out
there's
there.
A movie theater there, there's a bowling alley, the restaurants. There's usually at the House of Blues. There's always a concert most nights of the week. There's a lot going. The NBA experience is now open there. There's a lot happening. The Lego store. There's an incredible. If anybody's into soccer, there's an incredible soccer merch store with all the players, the original authentic jerseys and all the different forms of them. And my kids love that store. There's a Marvel store. There's a Star Wars store. It's all there. And then there's some great like dessert places and we love Disney. There's a siren going by. Love
I've
Disney
never heard a
Springs.
siren in here.
I know, we're in a studio. Interesting. But anyhow, the only other Disney news I wanted to get to was kind of I don't know why we say this, it's kind of the biggest news is that Hong Kong and Shanghai Disney are closed this week because of the coronavirus.
And I heard that people were wearing masks at Disneyland.
Apparently it's jumped the pond. There's a few cases in the United States of this corona. Do you know anything about this coronavirus? Do you get scared about stuff like this? Does this bother you?
Well, I think anytime you're a parent, you're always concerned about anything like that when you hear there's some strange virus, and it's how long before they get it under control. And I'm not usually. I'm not a germaphobe. When it feels like it's around the world, but I am. It's scary for those people, and it's very. I'm actually.
Well, they're closing the park. I mean, that's a big deal.
You think that's a big deal for those.
Was that a Chinese government call or was that a Disney call?
I don't know.
Or do you think
I knew it had happened, but I really didn't. I didn't read up anything on it. I just saw it happen. It's really. And I actually know some people that were taking a trip over there. Some people that I follow that online, and I wonder how many people that's going to change their plans and trips. It's
interesting. And also, it's an interesting discussion about Disney with. Natural disasters and how they handle some of those. California has earthquakes. Florida has hurricanes. In the past, I know they've shut down for hurricane warnings. I assume as Disney, do you know of any Disneyland closures for?
I'm not sure about Disneyland, but I definitely knew that for some of the hurricanes they've closed for a day or so. When you were growing up, do you remember living in Florida? The park ever closing?
I don't actually. I'm sure I remember Andrew, and Andrew was a terrible hurricane for South Florida. But you never know how those things are going to turn. And we lived in, of course, right between Tampa and Orlando. And where I lived, we had very little impact. We got out of school, and but I feel like Disney probably closed that day for Andrew. But and I'm sure they have after that. But I don't remember. I don't really recall.
Well, I know they've built it to withstand things, and there's a big myth that the castle disassembles in case of a hurricane. There's a big myth about that online. I see a lot of myth debunking videos, and that's always in the list that no, the castle doesn't come apart.
It's like a transformer
or go underground.
It's on a hydraulic system.
That people think it. Yeah, I think probably people know it's hurricane. It's built to withstand a hurricane, and so they assume it must go underground or something, but. I don't think any of that's really true.
So you're in the middle of your year with Disney, and
I'm not at the middle. I'm still at.
You're at the beginning of your year of Disney, but you're in the process of your year of Disney.
And I'm moving slowly. I'm kind of surprised how slowly I move. But honestly, I think I've never coined this or heard this phrase coined before. But I think there might be something called Disney lag. like when you come back from a Disney trip, like you're so exhausted. Like I really was coming back from that trip, and I was going to hit all this material that I was going to watch, and it took a few because I come back to work. I had a huge work schedule right back from the trip, but I'm making my way through. I mean, my goal is to I'm starting at the beginning. I'm trying to watch as many things as I can, and I'm reading some books too. Like so, what I decided to do is I'm going to try to watch as much material as I can that Walt created. I'm really, from a kid, was fascinated with Walt and Walt's story, how all this came about. That's a lot of my fandom is based on his story. It just, as a kid, even, it just really fascinated me. And so I love reading biographies. I found this cool book called Walt Before Mickey. And it all focuses on a 10-year period, 1919 to 1928, when he goes, when he creates Mickey Mouse. So it's all about all the things he did before Mickey Mouse, the rises, the falls, the successes, the failures, everything he did. And it's really fascinating. And so as I'm reading the book, and it talks about the first thing he created were this series of films called Newman Laughograms. I think we talked about this last time. These short little 1-minute things for a local news, for a local theater, little news reels. Then he goes on to develop this series, first animation he's ever done, and he actually, fascinating that he actually draws this. Like he's not just later, like in later years where he's hiring artists, he's doing a lot of the work and doing a lot of the drawing himself. And interesting, and a lot of these things you can find them online. Disney hasn't put out a lot of this stuff. It's bonus feature kind of material on some DVDs and things, but it's really interesting. And so I'm watching, as I'm reading the book and it's telling the order of things, I'm kind of watching the stuff. So I'm about to get up to the Oz, where he creates Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, which is going to be a big part of the story that's going to lead to the creation of Mickey Mouse and him moving out to California. But it's really, there were a lot of things that were really fascinating to read about so far. And I'm just in the first 1919 to 1922. One, it's amazing to watch these movies and to realize there's the first cartoons he does that are like 7-8 minutes long, these shorts. They're 100 years old.
Wow.
There's Disney content out there now that's 100 years old.
That's hard to believe. Yeah,
and the other a lot of things that were really interesting, like with his first job right back from World War I, and he gets a job with the Gray Advertising Agency, and one of the first people he meets is a guy named Ub Iwerks, who's going to go on to be one of his longtime collaborators. He's going to stay with him off and on for many years, all the way to the 1960s. And then, but as the first animator really of Mickey Mouse, he's going to be the one that when they create him, Ub's going to be the one that does most of those Steamboat Willie, Plain Crazy, those early Mickey Mouse cartoons. He's going to animate most of it by himself with Disney's direction, because things are going to start shifting. But he's already with Ub, like from the very beginning. And when they worked for this advertising agency for a while, then they decided to form their own company. And you can see that Disney's trying all these different things just to find his place. He's interested in live action. He's interested in animation. But really interesting story. And not just but early on, he also surrounds himself with these other artists like Rudolph Ising, who's going to go on to work with Warner Brothers. He's got this guy named Hugh Harman. There's just several that they were all right there in Kansas City developing this. They're all going to end up out in California doing, historic things in animation, that they were all right there together. I also was really, again, when you're reading about all these things he's doing and you're going, he's 20.
Wow.
He's 20. He's starting all this, and he's only 20 years old. And this book, one of the things I like about this book is that it's very factual. It's based on a lot of interviews and a lot of the interviews with Walt Disney himself that have been handed down through the years. And he's done a lot of research on different records and things like that. But it really shows a lot of information, just the people that surrounded him, the people that really believed in him. And so even when he's going through these rough financial things, he develops these laughograms, this series of animated films, and the distributor goes bankrupt. So basically, he's done all this work. He has no income coming in, and basically, he's going to go bankrupt. And but there were always people there that were trying to help him. And I was thinking, when you think how many people must have really believed in him from the very beginning. And it also seems that he just never got discouraged. I mean, very few people would have, there were very few comments from people through the years of times when he was discouraged. If he was, it was for a short period. He had a way of somehow getting back on the positive side and going, well, if that didn't work, I'll try this, or I'll go to California. I'll try this. I mean, really amazing.
One of the great innovators of our time. I mean, really, when you put it in those terms, I heard a recent interview with Elon Musk talking about how people think, well, he's just got plenty of money. If Tesla goes under, he's fine. And he says, no, you don't understand. Those of us who do something, when he did PayPal, he said, everything I had was in that. If it sank, I sank. Everything I have right now is in Tesla and SpaceX. If it sinks, I sink. Everything I have is in this because I believe in it. My heart and soul's in it. And I think whether it's Steve Jobs or whether it's Bill Gates or Henry Ford, everything they have is into this, sink or swim, and to do something kind of legendary, to do something that's truly great. Right. It almost takes that kind of mentality that if this doesn't work, I'm going to try something else until it does, because I don't really have any other options here. This is what I want to do. Yeah, that's inspiring.
That's one of the, and even where I am at the end of this story right here, he has the Laugh-O-Gram films. Financially, it's not. So he does this new film called Alice in Wonderland. He decides it was very popular at the time. There was a character out called the series called Out of the Inkwell, and this animated clown came out of the bottle of ink and worked around in a live action world. So he said, well, I'll do the opposite. I'll put a live action girl into an animated film. So that's like he tries this. He ends up going to California where they continue that series on. But when they finally find a distributor for that, they make like $1,500, which would have been a lot of money in 1924. Yeah, and it was probably, I think they said they made about 700. They spent about 700 on it, so they get 1,500. Well, they take that profit. All of it goes right back into the next thing. And if you watch his whole life, he's constantly doing that.
Does it seem like
everything? He wouldn't have built Disneyland. If he hadn't been investing himself.
He's not playing it safe at all.
He's constantly, everything they make goes back into the next thing. It wasn't about, you can really see it wasn't about the money. It was about creating.
Getting it right.
The money was just a means to get to the next thing.
Sure.
And to do the next big thing. So
and that's inspiring. I think most people in their daily lives and jobs, and if you're in anything creative, or if you, even in your hobbies, that you want to like not have the restraints of budgets and costs to be the motivating factor. Again, that's for some people is a fantasy world. That's maybe something we all dream about. But to truly operate like that, like I'm not going to be deterred because here are all the list of reasons why I can't do it. Right. I'm just we'll figure that out when it comes up. We're going to do this.
Yeah. Can you imagine if after that first series of fairy tales didn't find a distributor, if he had just quit? Yeah. Like to think about all that wouldn't be here today.
Insane to think about.
If he had just said this is too hard. Interesting. It was a great quote. It's actually one of his quotes. He almost thought he had missed it. He thought animation's been around about 6 years, and I just haven't gotten in on it early enough. Wow. That he actually makes that quote at some point. And I think his brother Roy was still trying to encourage him to keep on and say, I think you should keep trying. But there was a point where he thought, I've missed the curve. Wow. I've missed this 6-year curve. I thought that was really amazing that 100 years ago they were thinking, I've missed the animation curve. It's too late for me.
So many lessons.
If I'd been here 5 years earlier, it's different, but I've missed
how many people are sitting there thinking about things they would love to do and think, well, I'm just too late.
Hey, I mean, it happens all the time still today. Industries are constantly changing and things happen so fast. And you think, man, I'd like to do that. And then you think, well, it's too late. I've missed the curve. I'd need to have done that 10 years ago. Now it's too late. But that's a great a point where here was one of our great innovators that thought, I've missed the curve. It's just too late. Maybe I go into live action. I just do something else completely different. But yeah, there seemed like there was a season there where it could have all gone up in smoke.
Oh my goodness. But I think this is a great place kind of to wrap it up. I mean, when we talk about why I love Disney, as you sit and we have this conversation about that in particular, what you're reading, man, I love Disney because of the way it inspires me to dream. It inspires me in my creativity, inspires me in my business. That you just telling me right there makes me want to I want to go work harder.
Yeah.
I want to put more effort into the creative things that I do, and not worry about all the reasons why I can't do it. It's incredibly inspiring, and I think Disney as a company, that's kind of become woven in their culture. Just everything they put out with excellence, and it's just kind of the spirit of Walt Disney that no, we're going to do things right, and everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah.
That's inspiring to me, and that's why I love Disney. You want to close this up here?
That's why I love Disney as well. Hope you guys do, and would love to hear your comments and things that you love about Disney. Always, you can check us out on our webpage, whyilovedisney.com, and let us know why you love Disney.
Thanks for listening to the Why I Love Disney podcast. If you'd like to contact us, you can do so through our website at whyilovedisney.com. You can also find us on Twitter at whyilovedisney. Have a great week. See you next time.